Welcome to episode 2 of the Inspired Conversations with Coaches podcast, where I share interviews with heart-centered coaches to inspire you to unlock your true self so that you have a truly wonderful life. Today's episode is using meditation to unlock potential. My guest is John Farrell. John is a transformational coach, and as a shadow worker and coach himself, John has spent 2 decades researching the nuances of personal development and helps you navigate the challenges that can sidetrack your coaching journey. Hope you have really enjoyed this episode. I'm your host, Scott Campbell. My mission is to empower coaches so that you can build and scale your coaching businesses and make a positive impact on the world, and at the same time be wonderfully blessed financially. Let's get to the episode. It's a cracker. Hey, welcome, John.
Hi, Scott. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, this will be a good one. I'm using meditation to unlock potential. I've done the intro, and we're going to get straight into it. So, first thing I want to ask you around is how would you define meditation and how it differs from like people's common perceptions of what people may have of what meditation is?
Probably the most the concept people had of meditation is that it's hard work. And I don't think it's easy, because your meditation is taking our active, flat out mind that's racing all over the place, and quieting it down to one point. The one meditation is looking at a candle. So just concentrate on the candle and stop talking about what you're doing tomorrow or what happened yesterday. Or I work a lot with sports people. You know, if you're about to take a penalty kick, that should be the single thing that you're focusing on. And of course, it's not an easy thing to do. It's a skill to learn. So yeah, the concept of meditation's hard. It's not necessarily hard, but it's not easy. It does take some practice to sort of get the mind quietened down. It's a challenge.
I think this is one of the common problems I hear people, and I remember when it's quite a long time ago now that I did, but when I probably tried it about 3 or 4 times before I actually got into doing it consistently. And there's always a pull of it, put it back. But the one thing that I struggle with, and I know people that try it, there's that conception around, everything's going to be, peaceful and silent, and you're going to be but if it's most people like myself try it the first few times or whatever, and actually makes you think about a lot more stuff.
Yeah. It's what it's doing. Meditate the idea behind meditation, for me, the way I use it is to quieten the mind down, so it's not you're spending a second on different subjects, to start to quieten the mind down, to then allow the space for things to come up. So it's almost you quieten the mind down and then things come up. So you start to get busy again. So it's quietening the mind down from living in the past and the future to allowing to to be in the moment and what's coming up for me now. So that's where the skill comes in. It's actually, stopping the past and the future, because we can't deal with those, or we don't know what's happening in the future. The past is the past. We don't live in the present, but that's where everything's happening, but we don't listen to ourselves. And meditation is a really good access point to living in the present.
Yeah, I agree. And so people watching this, and obviously this will, just for the title, get people interested. It'll probably attract people that probably know a little bit already about meditation, have tried it, or interested in it, obviously because of the title and it. But what are significant benefits of meditating, particularly when we're talking about unlocking potential?
My niche, or the sort of the focus for my work, is coaching coaches, and the coaches I deal with are the life coaches, the spiritual coaches, the ones that are more mindset, looking at people's mindset. Now, 90% of our communication is non-verbal. So if I'm being a coach to a person, I need to be able to picking up on all that sort of stuff, not just what they're saying. But to be able to do that, I need to stop all the other stuff that's distracting me and carrying me off. Like they say something, I'm interested in what they're saying. Well, that's my ego, that's my stuff that's going on. I need to know how to put that to the side. So the most important thing for me, and it's not meditating, it's that technique of being able to quiet my mind down. So when I go into a coaching session, I will quiet my mind to a certain extent, it's not 100%, but quiet my mind down so that I'm actually actively listening, or more than actively listening. I'm really focusing on what's going on for the client. 90% of our communication is non-verbal. Face to face, there are times when I will ask the client not to answer, not to verbally answer, because that's just distractions for them and me.
Mm.
Because there's all this other information coming up. Now, that's almost for me a sense of what's coming up. It's not completely conscious, all this non-verbal communication. And I can't get to that point if I've got a whole lot of other stuff coming in and out of my mind, the ego's coming up, the interest in what's going on for them. The two questions when I'm coaching, the two questions that I have at the back of my mind are the question that the client's system wants to be asked, and when the client's system wants to be asked. If I'm interested, that negates both of those questions. So it's me sensing the other person. So meditation, the first thing for meditation is being able to interact with the person on more than just what they're saying.
Mm.
What a person's saying, usually if I ask a question, they're answering me the way that they think I want to be answered, or the answer that they think they need to give to me, or I shouldn't be part of the system, the situation, because they're the coachee. It's not about me. So, and it's that thing when somebody's saying something and they're telling you and they've got their arms crossed, are they cold, or are they actually not quite telling you what's really going on with their words? Now, it's not just the arms folded. There'd be lots of other communications going on. So I'm trying to pick up on all sorts of different things, and my mind's off drifting about what I'm going to do tomorrow or what I'm cooking for dinner. It just gets too much. It just gets too confusing.
That is interesting. So that benefit then of the quieting your mind, being in the present, in terms of full unlocking potential, you're saying is like then it's almost in every other walk apart that then that being be able to then practice that and put it into practice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's just I'm using there in coaching, but I think and I do shadow work. And shadows for me are things that come up when we meditate. Meditation and journaling are the most important, easy, accessible things if you're going to do shadow work.
yeah.
And what
So
the meditation's doing
just
it,
very briefly, just tell just people because you say shadow work and people might not a lot of people might not understand that. I mean, because I think even in the coaching world, it's probably some shadow. What just briefly, what do you mean by shadow work?
we have so many inputs coming into us from when we're really young, conception to birth, pre-verbal, genealogical, and this influences who we are, and it's all unconscious.
Yeah.
Some of it may come up now and then. We may see a person behave. The person is not the behavior. And I asked the question decades ago, why do we do what we do? It's not the behavior, there's some trigger behind that. And most people are going around to sleep. They just behave. They don't think about why did I get angry, or why do I like that person, or why does that thing annoy me? And these are what we call shadows. The triggers, the events in our lives that we've depressed, suppressed, we ignore, we deny, that are really powerful in creating who we are as a person. And they're suppressed. We don't have access to them consciously. Meditation is a really good way of starting to allow this. So we quieten down all the crap that's going on. We quiet down, and this is the stuff that starts to emerge out. The shadows start to come out.
Mm.
We have golden shadows as well as dark shadows. I could have been a great singer, but singing in front of the mirror when I was 2 years old, and my brother told me my voice sounded like a whipped horse, and I suppressed it. I don't remember that event, but I suppressed it. So today, if I explore that and I say, "Oh, singing looks interesting," and I explore that, and suddenly I could take off. So shadows are not all dark. There's lots of golden shadows out there. So
Yeah.
that shadow work is bringing those shadows to the light, shining light on those shadows. Meditation's the platform, one of the platforms
Yeah.
that's I use for it.
I must admit, for me personally, meditation's been the biggest sort of kind of for unlocking my potential. Has been using it to reprogram my subconscious mind. Um,
Absolutely.
because it, without using meditation, I would almost feel like that's, you know, it'd been impossible, if you like, because of quieting the mind, and that awareness of it as well. So sometimes when I start meditating and I feel like I'm too, I have to like, no, start again from the start because I've gone off track thinking about something, and
It's learning how to stop those distractions, and um uh it's not attacking ourselves or putting ourselves down. It's saying, okay, I'm off there, now come back to it. So being kind to yourself, if you like, because it is meditation is allowing the mind to explore what comes up, and I think it's great for accessing potential.
Mm.
A lot of our shadows, a lot of things that we suppress can really we suppress being a singer or being creative in the artistic field or anything. I could have been. We all have, I believe, we all have access to all the genius in the world. We just haven't sort of we haven't accessed it. We haven't gone there. We haven't, and it's not available to us. And by meditating these things, being a singer, it comes up. The thing is that, before I meditate, or when I'm unconscious to it, when I'm unaware of it, and I see a singer, we project. So I see a singer like Taylor Swift is a great one at the moment. How many people hate her? I mean, she seems like a lovely girl. I don't know her, but what is that? It's not her. It's me projecting my shadow onto her, thinking, oh, she's not very good, when it's really me that's not very good because I've suppressed it. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could actually meditate on that and explore my singing abilities? So I have a coping strategy. I'm born, my brother shouts at me and tells me I'm not good enough to be a singer. And my coping strategy is to project onto another singer, Taylor Swift. I'll just use her as an example because she's topical at the moment. So I have a coping strategy that's unconscious, the behavior. By meditating, I can become aware of that, shine a light on it. It comes up, and that's the point where I can then put a mental model in and say, oh, okay, I can change the way that I'm seeing things, my reality, the way that I process. So rather than being a negative coping strategy,
Mm.
I can put a mental model in that hopefully one day will become unconsciously competent at. It'll be something I unconsciously do anyway. And I'll see, okay, well, yeah, Taylor Swift, she's got a lot of popularity. What is it about her?
Mm.
What is she doing with the voice, with the singing? And that's going to help me. So, yeah, we have coping strategies for everything in life. We just don't consciously put them in place. Often they're put in by other people.
Mm.
Meditation can allow us that space to develop our own mental models.
Mm.
So some of the mental models I put in place. I do all the cooking in the house because I've decided that it's not hard work. That's actually my artistic outlet. So my mental model for cooking is my artistic outlet. So I've changed that coping strategy. Shit, I have to do the cooking, and I'll just get something out of the freezer and put it in the microwave. I put a different coping strategy in place, a mental model to this is my little space of time each day, an
Mm.
hour or so, and it still might be sort of eggs and chips, but I've put a mental model in place. So
Mm.
I enjoy cooking.
Sure. And that's what the meditation allows you to do. And
Yeah, it allows me to see that coping strategy that's not helping, to go, okay, this is not great, but then I need to be able to put a better one in place.
yeah, right.
Another coping strategy, a mental model that's going to empower me.
Yeah. And for
But
people that are pursuing ambitious goals, what ways can meditation improve for them? I mean, and I suppose the three main parts, we talk about sort of focus, clarity, and probably decision making within that. Um, so how can people use kind of meditation? Which ways can meditation improve that focus, clarity, and decision making when they're really pursuing an ambitious goal?
I think it's what we just said. Meditation develops that self-awareness, develops that awareness of patterns that we run. So it's Taylor Swift. Oh, she's a useless singer. I've never listened to her, but then I start to know, well, that's something I do elsewhere. Or there's certain people that annoy me or get my back up. With meditation, you start to become aware of the emotions coming up and then of the patterns that you're running. So it's more that meditation is starting to make you aware of what's not helping you,
Yeah. So
so that you can
self-aware.
then start to put in, yeah, that self-awareness, so that you can then start to put in that mental model, more empowering beliefs, values, whatever they are. I use something called transurfing, and because I
So
never really sat with affirmations. Some people sit with meditations, and I do both meditations with just sound.
yeah.
So very frequencies at different frequencies. So they're just a sound, either just a frequency or Baroque music's very good. So I'd use that sort of non-direct meditation, but then I also do directive meditation or guided meditation. But I never really got on with affirmations, because an affirmation is you're rich, or you're worthy,
Yeah.
you're worthy, you're worthy. Well, hold on, my unconscious knows I'm not.
Mm.
That's not going to help. And then I'm getting, and maybe that's the reason that one of the reasons people struggle with meditation, because their guided meditation is telling them something their unconscious
Yes.
knows that they're not. And meditation accesses the unconscious. So you've got this
Yeah, because
dichotomy.
there's a thing that you might say, right, I'm gonna meditate for £1 million, but your subconscious will go, that's not possible. So it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
matter what you're doing on the surface in terms of how to tell yourself, there's a lot deeper you have to do.
So what it is, I use transurfing. What it is, it's a different question.
Mm.
So instead of you're worthy, when I'm using affirmations, I don't do it very often, but every now and then I need a bit of reinforcement. Why are you worthy?
Mm.
That's a different question to the unconscious, because in the unconscious, just go, okay, so why? This is a question. And if you've done neuro-linguistic programming or any really deep coaching, you'll know that the why question can be really powerful.
Mm.
I work with people. My wife actually worked with a rugby lock who was 3 times wider and at least 2 foot taller, and he couldn't finish her question. Going, so it's a 5 why technique. You've got to be able to ask the why question about the right thing with the client. Again, that uh, awareness as a coach of the client.
Mm.
Yeah, he could only go to 3 or 4 whys, and then he couldn't emotionally handle it. This guy's a lot playing rugby. So that affirmation for me in meditation, why are you worthy? It asks a different question, and there's not the dichotomy. The unconscious isn't going to come to an answer, but it'll have a look around for different things. So there's different sorts of meditation. There's different sorts of guided meditations that I use. Joe Dispenza's very good. I use him a bit.
Yeah,
He can be a bit challenging physically when I'm meditating,
right.
and I always like, sort of, when I'm meditating, to be able to skip below the conscious and the unconscious. I meditate about an hour a day,
Yeah.
5 days a week, and on the weekend we go for 1 or 2 hour walk, 3 hour walk into the hills. So that's a walking meditation.
Mm.
So I use different sorts of meditations,
I do
different
that.
things.
Yeah. I do walking meditation every day. As part of the programming. And yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, because I think with it's almost find that blend of what you really respond to, I suppose, yourself.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
Even if it's a female voice or a male voice that you prefer, stuff like that. I think it's so interesting. I get what you say about Joe Smith, because I like his stuff as well. But sometimes it can be a very not in your face as such, but a bit more
I find it claustrophobic.
interesting.
But, oh,
But
yeah,
sometimes the way I've got so like the Hopoponopono one I do as a meditation, the 108 repetitions. But I
yep,
have
yep,
a voice version and I have a female version, because sometimes
yeah,
I'm just a bit more sensitive or whatever, and I feel like, right, I want the female version, and so I suppose it's that understanding yourself there as well. In terms of you said as well, could you kind of we were kind of going there. I want to push through about to unlocking potential through meditation, really like that limiting beliefs then, because when we talked about like where you can't, you might say something like an affirmation, but your unconscious knows well that's not going to happen, because and it uses all these references in the past, like particularly with people with money problems, that money is bad and all these other things, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
they've got all of that stuff normally from our childhood and what we've been conditioned with.
Yeah, yeah.
That's coming up that we're not knowing about it. So there's a lot of limiting beliefs that we've got in our subconscious already. Um, so where can meditation help in terms of breaking free from them limiting beliefs, them mental barriers? Because they really hold people back from their reaching their full potential, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Limiting beliefs, scarcity mentality. I've was doing research with a genius in psychology 15 years ago, and he was very much, and it's a little bit frustrating because it's now coming out in mainstream philosophy of psychology, what we were doing 15 years ago. We have about 4 to 7, it's different for different people, core beliefs. Um, Pre-verbal, uh, could be from conception. Birth's a trauma for lots of people. And it could be ancestral. It could be genealogical. We bring all these things in, but we only have a few core beliefs.
Mm.
So little Johnny's 1 year old, 2 years old, and he's put a couple of Lego blocks together and it's a boat. Now, in his map of the world, in his world, that's a boat. And who's the most important person in this place in his life? Well, at that age, we're still in a very non-dual world. Everything's one. It's not you and me, or it's not little Johnny and mummy and daddy. It's us. So when mummy and dad are arguing, it's not mummy and daddy arguing. It's the feelings.
Mm.
So little Johnny's built this boat, and he realizes, he wants to show it to daddy, and daddy comes down. Now daddy's been at work all day, brings all this shit from work home, had an argument with the boss. And of course, Daddy gets in the door, and he really doesn't have time for little Johnny. So he's had a hard day at work. You can't blame. Just go and talk to your mum. I just got home and watch television. Now, little Johnny can't think, especially critically think, can't think through what's going on. So us, negative feeling, seed.
Mm.
Now Johnny's sort of teenager, and he's in the schoolyard, and he's a bit sweet on the school there. And there's a bully who's also sweet on the same girl. The bully's figured the best way to get to this girl, he thinks, in his map of the world, is to bully Johnny. So he does that to get the girl. Now, Johnny has an emotional reaction to this, and his unconscious is going, because the unconscious can deal with thousands more things than the conscious. It's racing, but oh, it feels like that. Now, it can't remember that event with the Lego boat, but it knows the emotion, and that's a layer on that original event. Now, millennial Johnny's 25, and he's sitting in the office. The boss comes and slams all the books on the desk and says, "We've screwed that contract up. There's this, and we didn't do this." And in that instant, millennial Johnny's that emotion, that same emotion, it's colored. It's not quite the same emotion, but it's another layer on that onion.
With that attachment to it,
There's the attachment bit. To actually get back, it's almost impossible. I have done it, but to get back to that original event,
yeah.
it takes a challenge. But psychology will look at a layer. Meditation will help pull some of those, that start to pull those layers away. So would you each of those layers dissolving, integrating, becoming one with us, we start to tap back into our early potential. So most of those early beliefs are limiting, that you're not good enough, you're not going to be a singer, whatever it is, it's holding your potential back because you're not good enough. I mean, not being worthy is one of the main ones that we have, whether it was taught to us by our dog or our mum or our grandmother or grandfather or great-great-grand, whatever it is. Somewhere along it, we've latched onto that, and it's easy to get lots of layers to it.
Mm.
If we don't meditate, we're going to carry that behavior. It'll evolve and change, but it'll never be a helpful behavior through our life. Meditation, we can stop the growth of that onion, stop the layers, and start to integrate those layers so that we can start to tap back into that original potential, whatever that potential is for us, for the individual.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's powerful. And
it's exciting. It's exciting when you get somebody, you start to peel those layers away, and suddenly it's like, I'm not constrained. I'm not hung in by society's rules and regulations. And I can't imagine Elon Musk has got too many rules and regulations and limiting beliefs. Branson, the same. You can't imagine those guys have got that many limiting beliefs that are holding, oh, should I do that? And it's their potential, but I'm also a strong believer in, as you change, the people around you change. You attract the people that are attracted to you. So as your potential rises, you attract different people that are more like you. So it's not just you know, we're not just a little island, we're a group, a team, if you like. So there's another part that where those that potential will grow within you.
Mm.
Because a lot of meditation, you know, it's measurable. There's thousands of scientific experiments done on the benefits of meditation. But individually, like a lot of stuff, we don't see ourselves changing.
No, it's interesting. I think I'm not sure the pattern, but there's this pattern is a bit like I think fitness when people look losing weight is probably the easiest relation example. There's a little bit of it where that if you do it for a day here and there, whatever, you won't see any benefit.
Yeah.
If you do it for if you do it for a week, you know, we were talking off air before, you know, before you started, we've got about consistency, but if you do it for a week, you'll start feeling some sort of change. If you know, if you're not attached to the outcome and you do it for a week. Um, and then after about probably 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, that other people will start seeing a change and mentioning it. And it's interesting in that, is you know, and I had the same sort of thing for me with when I really went into sort of kind of personal development, sort of deep dive. I didn't feel that I changed that much because I think the realization was, oh my God, I've only just touched the iceberg. You know, this is never, you know, initially we talked about this before, Ian's one about you come into personal development, you think, right, tick, done, but actually you realize quite quickly that it's a never-ending journey. Um, and so it should be, but there's a little bit there where I then had that liberty of God, oh, right, you know, I've got this, but there's so much, you know, and my perception, I suppose, it would take a long time to achieve, you know, whatever it is at the time that I felt was that level, that next level. But the interesting thing was then people noticing it in me before I noticed it.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, and I'll never forget there was one conversation I had with someone who said to me that's their conversation they had with someone else where I wasn't in the room around the change in me. So they were relaying this conversation they had, which was a real interesting perception at the time because of the things. But there's that perception it's going to take a long time or whatever. And I think it's that consistency of, if you like, doing it, isn't it? Trusting it for maybe I'm going to do it for a long time. And
I think you've got I worked with a guy he was he wanted to get fit and healthy. And I think to yes, you have to do it consistently for a period of time, whatever it is, if it's meditation or physical fitness or learning an instrument. And you're not going to notice until there's sort of major hurdles you get through. But
yeah,
you've got to have the driver, the mental model that's going to put you in the right frame of mind. So getting fit for most people is not really enough, or losing weight is definitely not enough, which is why people yo-yo diet. So this guy, I was working with, he'd done a few diets and he wanted to go to the gym, and he went a couple of times a week, and we worked through it to get a much more powerful mental model. And the question that he took away, or the statement he took away, or the thing that took him away, because when I'm working with a client, it all has to be, for me, it has to be based in emotion. It's not based in emotion, then it's a sentence that we write on the wall at the front of the office, and everyone reads it every morning, and that's the last notice they take of it. So this guy, his kids were, you know, he got on really well with his kids. He was not quite retiring, but his kids were about to leave home, sort of thing. And we tapped into his grandchildren, who he would hope to have in the future, 5 or 10 years. And that, after going through the coaching session, became the driver for him to go to the gym, to be able to play with his grandchildren.
yeah, yeah,
Now, for him, there was no bigger driver to go to the gym. Oh God, I get out of bed and it's wet. And I did it yesterday. I don't have to do it today. Oh, yeah, but if I don't do this little bit every day, yeah,
yeah. And then you got, I
didn't need
suppose,
a bigger
you tell
driver.
you two things. Well, my wife still loves me as I am now. My kids love me as I am now, and you know, it's fine. Um, with that, so with that in mind, the how can someone integrate? It's I know they've got a busy life because that's the thing that people keep a limiting belief that I've got a busy lifestyle, you know, and no time for anything. It's interesting that once you have that persistence and that consistency and commitment to stuff, that you then can't live without it. So you kind of, but you know, prior, oh, I haven't got time for this. But how can someone integrate meditation into a busy lifestyle when they're kind of already feeling a bit overwhelmed and a bit guilty about life and not doing enough?
I think a little bit like the story I just told, you've got to have a driver, a really
Yeah.
powerful driver. I was working with a group of football academy a little while ago, and I said, let's have a look at this film. So watching, I don't play football, I watch rugby, but anyway, it was Messi or one of these guys, and he said, let's just watch him from a perspective. Let's just watch him watch the ball.
Mm.
And we watched him. It's about a 5 minute clip. It was from another psychology thing. And he only touched the ball twice in 5 minutes, but he never took his eye off the ball. And he would always be, you could see when I explained to them, you could start to see that he was moving himself around all the time. So his concentration was 100% on the game. All the time he was either on the ball, about to get the ball, or moving into a position to get the ball. And I said to the guys, and these guys are in the mid-teens. I said to them after telling them to put their mobile phones down, you guys can't listen to me for 60 seconds. We've just watched him for 5 minutes, and you can see he can concentrate. His dedication is there. So it's a challenge. Yes, we've got a busy life, but also, social media. The point of being, the reason to take this is to catch your attention all the time.
Mm.
We all sort of roll over as the alarm goes off and make sure what's the latest like on Facebook. And
Mm.
immediately our mind's looking for outside gratification. And
Mm.
we're racing. There's all these different inputs and things going on. And, they tell us that we've got a 30-second attention span, and the news is always in your face now. And so one of the things I advise people to do is to throw the television out. We haven't had TV for years. So I've got an idea of what's happening in the news, but it's what I decide to watch on the news. So you have to think of it's not even going into meditation, because if you try and do meditation, it won't work. You're just churning so much information, so much stuff coming in that fires our cortisol, that gets us energized. So meditation, you don't have to do, sort of at the end of the day, or the start of the day. You do it anytime during that. It's harder. I did find it. I was in hospital last week, and I did find it a bit challenging to sit in the hospital bed and meditate.
Mm.
The thing I like about it is that when I'm meditating, I lose track of time, because time it's a human concept, but when you're meditating, time has no meaning.
Mm.
And I sort of go, oh, that didn't take long. Oh, God, that's 30 minutes.
Yes.
So you can do it in a noise, in a situation with background noise. It's easier in the morning when you wake up. It doesn't matter if you think you're asleep.
Yeah.
So I
Is that down
consciously,
to the I'm not sure the right scientific thing, but there's something about when we first wake up, we're in our most alpha state, isn't there? You know, because obviously there's
yeah, we rise very
Joe
slowly
Dispenza talks
up.
about it, didn't he, about the age groups, you know, that where you take stuff more in prone to. But there's something about that close when you wake up,
Yeah,
you're in a different
you're
state.
coming out
And
of that delta state, that
yeah,
dream state, and that
yeah.
semi-awake state, which is what I was saying before. I like
Same as
when
it
I
is
know
in
I'm
the evening.
meditating,
Same as it is in the evening, just before you go to bed, isn't
it's
it?
before you go to sleep. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do what I do in the morning. I meditate in the morning. Is I get out of bed and do something else, and then meditate in a chair that I meditate in. Because if you wake up in bed and then you try and meditate, your body just slips back into delta state.
Mm.
So there's a delta dream state, and then there's sort of the next frequency up. You're
Mm.
starting to become a little bit more conscious, and that's why I was saying when I'm meditating, the way I prefer to meditate is when the sounds that I'm listening to will bring me in and out of consciousness. So
Yeah.
I'm just aware I'm there, and then I'm not, and then
Mm.
I'm aware I'm there, and then I always have at the end of my meditations chimes, and they'll immediately snap me back into the conscious.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to move your position. So it's not a good idea to sit in bed, in my opinion, to sit in bed at night and meditate, because your body, this is bed, this is sleeping. I'm going to go deep into delta sleep. Your conscious still has to be active.
Mm.
One of the interesting things we discovered in the work is when you're in hospital, when you have an operation, the anesthetic knocks your conscious out.
Mm.
Your unconscious is completely aware and completely immobile. It can't do anything, but it's completely conscious. So it's almost like your eyes are shut, but you're still in a high functioning frequency. So alpha beta.
Mm.
So alpha beta, if you race around, you've got things to do in the morning, you've got to get the kids to school, you've got to get the breakfast, you've got to get the dog for a walk. Well, you're in the high functioning, you're going to struggle to get into a meditative state.
Mm.
So I always do something in the morning, and then meditate, or and you can't watch television and then meditate because television is keeping you in a high functioning
Yeah.
state. So your mind can't quieten. It's harder to quieten it down.
Yeah. I
So
don't know, like, funny that I found whether or not I, this is kind of, a lot of these things I really delve into it, but then I find my own little way of doing it, if you like. And I'm saying I get up,
Yep.
tend to do not enough exercise, a little bit of movement, just in the first thing to do, but then and then at quiet time, then I like to that meditation, and then as soon as I finish, and I like it in the quite. It's interesting now that I'm kind of reaching out because my youngest is now at secondary school, um, and actually is up earlier because of she goes and gets the bus herself and whatever. So I have to kind of trying to readjust half an hour earlier to get that half an hour of quiet time where the house is dead quiet, and I really like that. Even my dog stays asleep in the morning, so it's like I don't even have that. But um, I like that kind of that. I have my favorite sort of spot, if you like, as well, my chair, and I take. But I quite like the idea when it works well for me, and I don't know if this is what you were saying about. Then as soon as the meditation's finished, I kind of like to go outside and whatever the weather is like, being that normal daylight, sunlight, whatever, um, and luckily for me, where back of my house is facing east, so it's like the sun rises from there. Um, but there's a little saying I say to myself. I think with all of these things, meditating, a little saying I say to myself, eyes open, alert, and I kind of say to myself, like, eyes open, alert, and then I kind of so what I have to walk to the back door for starters to go out, and then 5 minutes of just grounding in the whatever the sunlight, and it's more hard obviously in the winter where it's like darker, but that
Mm,
break of sunlight,
sounds nice.
yeah. So that is interesting. The kind of I think for me finding that in that busy time was actually. I think once you do it for a little while, you realize how important it is, don't you, in terms of unlocking your potential. So then
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the
the
meditation, you're
losing
opening
20
your
minutes of your sleep, you like to get up 20 minutes earlier, half an hour earlier, that you see the big benefit of it and sticking with it, I
the
suppose.
effect, the result.
Yeah.
Meditation allows you to sort of explore and things come up, and that period just after walking to the back door
Mm.
allows your conscious, so you're rising into a higher functioning frequency in the mind, but you're still your mind, your unconscious, your conscious is still sort of figuring out how all that goes together.
Mm.
The work that my work is based in metaphor and symbolism. So the unconscious can only work in metaphor and symbolism. Our conscious deals with language and speaking. That's why we have this pre-verbal phase. So when the baby's really young and that non-dual state, everything's one. They're not separate. The baby, everything's one. Everything's metaphor and symbols.
Mm.
So when we're in that conscious state with meditation, we're touching on a similar area. The understanding, the unconscious doesn't do mathematics, it doesn't do language. Okay, this is like this, and this is why dream work is that's not something I do, but it is very powerful in psychology, understanding why we have the dreams that we have.
Mm.
It's the unconscious's way of explaining to itself. So that period after you come out of meditation, it's helping the conscious to start to make a bit of conscious sense of what you've just gone through. And so you don't want to be sort of up from meditation and off racing, feeding the dog and cooking
Yeah.
breakfast and getting the kids out the door. Um, it's that little period, and journaling is really powerful at this stage because you can get the stuff out of your head onto a piece of paper.
Mm.
It's a way of the conscious, unconscious sort of understanding what's going on. More able to put those mental models in place that are going to be productive, helpful, opening up the potential.
And that's really interesting. And we touched on it a little bit and kind of the frequencies, because something that, and I've only actually realized this recently, even though I've probably been doing meditating maybe 5 or 6 years now consistently, um, and really kind of probably a year and a half, 2 years really. It's, felt it was like important, like being able to meditate at different times and walking, meditating and stuff like that. Um, but now it's interesting. And recently, where I'm going really into reprogramming my subconscious mind a bit and delving deeper into this. The how how important are the types of frequencies? Because there's a lot of, you got the background music to meditating or
Mm.
tracks and all that. And I never really looked at this before, but now I'm looking more at like what frequency is that? What level is that? How important are these types of frequencies that we use in meditation?
I do I make a lot of my own meditations, and one of the ones that I really like is it's an hour, and each 10 minutes is a frequency, and I go from a lower frequency, and I'm not going to be able to tell you the frequencies.
Yeah,
If you look up Safrigo frequencies on YouTube, you run into all of the frequencies.
yeah,
But I listen to the 10 minutes, and and one of the byproducts of having 10 minutes at one frequency and then slowly every 10 minutes stepping up was that's one of the things that bounced me from unconscious to conscious.
right.
It changed the way what it's doing is your mind is starting to get into that frequency. Now everything's energy.
Mm,
This is the reasoning behind that. Baroque music was at a frequency that is I can't remember what the frequency is, but um, it's a powerful frequency for meditating. The
yeah,
music is almost the superficial part over the top. It's the underlying frequency frequencies that are going on. I'll use the different frequencies. The lower frequencies, don't quote me, but I think 300 megahertz is more the physical frequencies. So if I have a physical injury,
yes.
listening to the lower frequencies helps my mind deal with those problems. I think one of
I
the
know that
things
285 hertz is particularly for the healing frequency,
is
isn't it?
it the 285. Yeah, so it's not exactly a frequency. It's a little short range of frequencies, and then as you go up, you get more active. So what I intended with my meditation was the last one is at 900 megahertz or something like that, the God frequency, the
Mm,
one that starts to make you become creative.
mm,
It starts to get the mind and unconsciously at this delta level or going into the semi-conscious
yeah,
level, just to start to explore creativity.
yeah,
That's the way I use them. I mean, obviously, this is something it can be meditation. Doing this can be challenging because what you're doing is you're asking the mind to slow down to run at that frequency. Well, it's not going to just slot into that frequency.
mm,
It's going to take a little bit of the mind getting used to. Okay, the sound is 285 megahertz, so it takes a little while for the mind to get down to that frequency if you're trained, if you're used to doing it. If you listen to that frequency today and tomorrow, it's your mind's still racing by itself. It's not trained, if you like, to follow that frequency.
mm,
All of my music, all of my meditation, whether it's guided or non-guided, has a frequency background.
mm. And that's important. Do you think it's important then to understand first of all then what potential you're trying to unlock before you?
No, because what's interesting about the work that I do is that it's unconscious. So,
Mm,
I'm talking to a client and I have to be quite careful. And there's, we have this agreement with the coaching client that we'll explore where we want to go and it's a safe space and, nothing said here will go outside, all that sort of stuff. But invariably, a lot of this stuff is suppressed, denied, and some of the events that just happen that you don't remember
mm,
and they can emerge. Now, if I going back to the singer, if I had have been that, but at 2 years of age, I got a fright. Dad came in and shouted, and again, it wasn't him directing me. It was just a negative emotion that I attached to it.
mm.
We don't remember the event, but we remember the emotion.
Yeah.
The energy from the emotion is held there through our life until we reintegrate it. So at 25 years of age, I may not remember that. Quite
Mm,
potentially, I have no concept of it, but I explore, I do meditation on it, journaling, wherever the coach, it starts to come up and suddenly, okay, wow, I've got a huge potential there,
Mm.
something that resonates with me. But prior to that, I didn't know it was there. So, and I might go into meditation or decide I want to be rich, which is a terrible goal to have. It's not a goal, really. I mean, having lots of money. It's why do you want lots of
Yeah.
money?
Yeah.
Um, so you really need to, it's quite challenging. One of the things I do with coaching, write out your 10 goals and so you write, okay, take that piece of paper and set fire to it. They're other people's goals. Now write out your goals.
Mm.
And people write out the next 10 goals. And you look at a few of those and throw some of those out because people, most people's goals and that are directed by the outsiders.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius said, as within, so without.
Mm.
That society has trained us from generations to go outside to look for
Yeah.
confirmation of what's happening outside. I'm doing the right thing,
Mm.
and I see somebody nod in agreement. So yes, they're happy, so I'm happy. It's not
Mm.
like that. It's I'm happy,
Yeah.
and if they're happy, that's great. But if they're not
That's why,
happy, that's
well,
not
we probably
mine.
go off to different subject, but that's why I think people like a bad relationship to bad relationship because they kind of that I'll be happy when I'm with that person, and
Hmm.
it's yeah.
So yeah, the way I use it, exploring that potential, you never quite know what's going to come up.
Mm.
It might be a better relationship, but the most important person in a relationship's you.
Mm.
So looking to have a better relationship with somebody or the people at work, when really the potential is developing the relationship with myself. So that's where the potential comes from.
Mm.
So it's always a bit challenging to go in with an outcome in mind,
Mm.
or definitely no, go in with an outcome in mind, but not stick to it. It's not written in stone. It's written on a piece of paper, which we can put to one side when we have a better outcome, a better potential. Yeah, that's something that,
Yeah.
and again, it's an emotion. This feels right.
Yeah. I
Our
suppose it's that
conscious response.
constant that awareness to review it. You might want to start meditating for a specific reason at the moment, it might be whatever might be struggling with, but like meditating for abundance and stuff like that. But then
The real reason behind it. It's
yeah,
a
yeah,
it's a trigger. It's annoyance. It's it's a negative feeling I have. And if I had money, if I had the abundance, and I wouldn't have this.
yeah.
That's a scarcity mentality, and we're trying to
But you,
pretend that we're going to ignore that. We're going to put a positive
well,
one in
yeah,
place.
because the double-edged sword of that is you're still in lack of rather than
Exactly. But the trouble is, the scarcity mentality is a much stronger emotional motivator driver. So
mm,
you'll get driven down there, and then you'll go to the gym for the first few days, and you'll keep going a little bit, but you drift back to the scarcity mentality or that negative, non-helpful driver. So the meditation is sitting with what comes up and
yeah,
recognizing, okay, that's not helping. What can I put in place that's going to empower me? Does that feel right? And you can't think this stuff through. You've got to sit with it.
I think that brings us to a really good finishing point and a loop circle because it's that going right back to the very first thing you said about that, being present and being in the now. And that's probably the biggest benefit, isn't it, of meditating is allowing you because when you can do that and then in the real world, magic start happening.
Massive potential
You said
comes
about that
through.
kid, I mean, my relationship with I mean, luckily there's a 9 year gap between my two children and my third child, but it allowed me a bit of a do-over,
Yeah.
about how what he thinks. And yeah, so my relationship with my daughter, because I catch my, been able to catch myself in that moment, like in the present now, of, like she'll ask me, oh, can you just do this? And well, my initial response might have been before when I was busy and whatever, and I life's busy, and you know, oh, later, I'll do it later. Is that realization actually, if I'm in the now when with her, then I can do that quick, now for her, and her that it's going to have a stronger
But then,
act on her.
and then a step before that is what's the real information coming out here?
Mm.
What's she really asking?
Yeah,
So it's allowing that little bit of space to actively listen, to really understand that most of our communication is non-verbal. Is what she's saying what she's really meaning, or is there something else going on?
yeah.
And for me, that was a huge evolution of self-development. So self-development is about self-awareness. You become aware of what's happening for yourself with others, and then being able to change the coping strategies. You change the behavior that comes out of it.
Mm.
Most people, yeah, an event happens, they're triggered. They either it's information or they react.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is, oh, that event has triggered me. The next step is that event has triggered me, and I have something better to do, better to put in place. And that's a real challenge for a lot of people. Um, and I know when we were first doing retreats many years ago, decades ago, to work with a coachee to help them evolve a mental model that you put in place that is going to empower the situation. So an event happens, you notice the emotion come up because you're triggered. This is what I normally do, isn't helping. What have I got unconsciously in place? Or what strategy have I got in place that is going to help the situation?
Mm.
And usually, what if somebody says something or they've triggered you, asking them a question about it gets them to go a little bit deeper. It helps them understand the issue, and it
Yeah.
helps you get that little bit of space to have a better answer for their question.
Yeah.
That's another mental model I have in
Yeah.
place. Don't accept the question that they're asking. Ask them a question about what they've just asked.
Mm.
So I was working with my wife a while ago, and she used to say, and I'm sure you're in business, you've had this before. People come to the office, you're the manager on the floor, and they come to the office, this is the problem, and they give you the problem.
Mm.
And you're going from scratch. The best question is, okay, so what are the three options we have here?
Mm.
And they go, oh, I don't know. Oh, go back and come back when you've got the three options. So you're training them to come to you. This is
Yeah.
the problem. These are the options. This is why I think this is the best one. And then you actually empower them massively.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you give yourself a bit of
Yeah.
space to have well, what would I do in this situation instead
Yeah.
of reacting to it?
Yeah. Because then you're just firefighting, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I think that's the thing we talked about, is unlocking this theme with it's obviously using meditation to unlock your potential. But when you unlock your own potential is that then you unlock other people's potential through
Yep,
having that skill set.
absolutely.
And
And
we're
you
gonna
don't know what's happening.
no, we're not gonna do this is where we're gonna have to stop you gone.
I'm just saying you're not
Yeah.
aware what's happening. You do these little incremental changes. It's not like you do meditation, suddenly things change. It's a holistic change.
Yes.
And the people around you change because we're all unconsciously interacting.
Mm.
So you be the change, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So be the change. This
Yeah.
means the people around you change.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're
If you're at
impacting
work,
people around you. Yeah.
yeah. So you're bringing people with you. Now, some people might be going to that kicking and screaming and not want to take the responsibility of finding a couple of answers to the question, but other ones will be really chomping at the bit to go, yeah, I can come up. And also, making sure that failure, Microsoft is great at this, making sure failure isn't a negative.
Mm.
So empowering for people to say, oh, okay, you did that wrong. So what do we learn from that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we learn, oh, great. Excellent. Don't do it again.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, like you said, we talked about this before, and we could have gone on for hours on this, and there's a lot of areas I didn't explore, but we might have well be coming back for part two. But thank you for your time, John. I'm going to put in your I suppose where's the best place if someone wants to connect with you? Is it in LinkedIn or Facebook?
Probably on LinkedIn. I websites are too static. They're a bit 20th century. And the things are evolving so fast now. There was the one of the ex-directors of Google's did a TED talk a while ago about the fact that we've reached that point where change is outstripping our ability to deal with it.
Mm.
And this is creating a lot of the mental health issues, I think, because we hate change.
Yeah.
Physically it comes up. Dis-ease is our dislike of change.
Mm.
So I see a website as something that was like, yeah, last century.
Mm.
LinkedIn's the best place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we'll put the details in the description,
Perfect.
wherever you're watching or listen to this. And that's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Scott. Talk to you soon.